Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. The title of this episode is called Buying In to Win with Magic Johnson, with the great quote that he had. But the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. And now we are joined by recurring guest, Mr. Felix Trammell. How are you doing on this beautiful Monday evening, sir?
I'm good, man. I appreciate the invite. Glad to see you.
And dude, it's exciting times here in the DMV. Haven't seen the kind of pulse, the energy, the excitement out of this fan base, I would say, since like 2012, really. What was your recap from the Pep Rally? Anything that stood out to you?
I think you hit the nail on the head. The energy, it was a refreshment. Like you didn't feel embattled as a Commanders fan, as a Washington fan. You felt like it was actually good times. And you mentioned 2012. 2012 was the last real year FedEx was rocking. And I mean, every single game, FedEx was top notch the whole game. And we haven't seen that since then. And we had some moments and we had some blips and things of that nature. But that's what it felt like, 2012. Everything was positive. Everything was pleasant. And it was just refreshing to see that, I mean, the biggest sense was you're not a joke anymore. You know, we're not a joke. We're a legit NFL franchise. And I think as fans, you know, especially fans that are maybe 40 and under, it's a long time coming. I mean, as me, I turned 40 in September. I can remember the late 80s, early 90s, but you're talking about that as a 5 and 6 year old kid. You know, you kind of expect, okay, that's what's supposed to be. It's been a lot of lean years. So I think that's just what's refreshing. And that was just the vibe out there. Everybody was just excited. Like it was just new, even though we were still at FedEx Field.
Yeah. And that's the thing, man. I was born in 1990. I don't remember happy times. I don't remember Super Bowl. I don't remember any of that. My life has been pain because of this franchise for the longest time.
Reed was born with a mustache. Little FYI.
Yeah, no, Kyle was born with that hat on his head. I don't think he's ever taken it off.
Dang it, dude.
I don't think I've ever seen Kyle without his hat.
Nobody has. It's like Joe Dirt. He was born without the top of his skull. He just kind of got that slapped on. It just kind of grew and infused.
I should crop that on all like my baby pictures and stuff just to prove the point.
Yeah. Come on, Kyle. You can't come at the master. Come on, dog. But what is your expectation from fans? Really, not only this whole season, but especially week one. I know week one should be kind of insane. Do you expect this to be like a 2012 type?
I pity the Cardinals because they're going to come in without their best player. It's going to be a buzzsaw. That's a team that doesn't actually travel well. So you're competing against maybe like an Eagles or the Cowboys or the Steelers or somebody that have a pretty large group there. So it's going to be 95% Washington fans. And it's going to be such a celebration because for so many years, people were waiting for that moment. They were waiting for that moment. So let the preseason be pretty good. And preseason doesn't have to be great. Let the preseason be pretty good. That first game is going to be through the roof. And that excitement is going to be there. It's going to be like that first RG3 game. And I just put everybody in the parking lot just so excited. And we had the luxury of seeing that Saints game in week one where he played so spectacularly, and week two, even though they lost against the Rams, but you just saw that energy. So I know that first game out of FedEx is going to be something crazy. And I think it's going to be more of a celebration of a new day. It doesn't even matter who was coming on the field against them. It's just going to be a new day, and it's going to be a party and a relief from all Washington fans. So that's going to be amazing to see. I can't wait for that day.
Yeah, because it's like the day that hope came back to DC, really. And I love the way that you put it, all those years of pent-up frustration crammed into week one against Arizona, to your point, feeling bad for the Cardinals, because that's exactly what it's going to be like. It's going to be chaotic. Sorry, Hall.
Real fast, somebody needs to make a Josh Harris poster with like the Obama like hope or change all over it and just put that out there.
Dude,
Just
that's-
rock
Somebody
those
has
shirts.
to.
Yeah, somebody's got to do that. I'm trademarking it right now. Nobody take that shit. I got it.
Put magic in it. Put magic in it, not Josh Harris. I would think that's
But-
better.
Yeah, well, he's been through a lot, as we know.
Yeah, no, I mean, shout out to the NFL because they definitely knew what they were doing with them, and they made their schedule for week 1. But sticking with like the enthusiasm and just like the overall excitement of the weekend, like we talked about, obviously training camp is going to be probably the most crazy bananas it's been since probably 2012, maybe that 2015-16 season whenever Kirk was coming off the playoffs. And like it's going to carry into week 1. Obviously, it's going to look like it's going to be a sellout. But do you see that just like all the positive momentum and all the happiness just kind of carrying out throughout the season, or do you think it's going to be a kind of like a short-lived thing, and then maybe if they hit a couple like lean games, they don't have the turnout that they want? Do you think it's going to turn back to the whole negative, toxic, create just ridiculous on Twitter, or do you think it's going to stay pretty positive throughout the whole season?
Well, Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days.
I forgot it's called X now. Yeah.
Yeah, I just logged in and I saw an X number. I was real confused. There's always going to be that toxic part of Twitter. That's just what Twitter is. There's people
Cesspool.
going on there that cry and moan all the time. But I think the general apathy of the fan base will understand that if this is a good year, it's a good year. If it's a not so good year, they know that there's going to be some sort of plan in place to carry things forward. Because we as fans understand that this team wasn't that far off. They were 8-1 with subpar quarterback play. You put decent quarterback play in there, that's a 10-win team, that's a playoff team. So the pieces are there. So of course there's always going to be some gloom and doom on Twitter, which is not the real world, but majority of fans are just going to see the excitement. And even if they're losing, if the presentation's there, if the whole experience at Fedex has changed, that's going to carry over. People are longing, and we know FedEx isn't the best stadium, but an atmosphere is an atmosphere. I mean, all those nostalgic stadiums, Wrigley Field is terrible.
Yeah.
Fenway Park is terrible, but it's the atmosphere of those places. And they went through droughts that we couldn't even imagine. I mean, you're talking about 80, 90 years without winning a title, but it's just the atmosphere there. So I think that's going to carry over regardless of what the on-the-field record is, unless they just completely implode, which I don't foresee. But that I think that's going to carry over more about the experience and the turning over the new leaf versus, oh my God, we're 1-2, blow it all up.
And to your point, Felix, like growing up
Bring
for me,
Snyder back.
Yeah, growing up for me, the best parties usually were in the worst environments, the craziest things you wouldn't even think of. To your point, it's all about the environment and just being together. To your point there, but we're heading into training camp. It's training camp week, baby. Felix, we're excited. I know we're all happy about Harris, but we got to remember there's football going on, baby. So my question to you, what are the biggest battles that you're circling looking ahead to training camp and saying, this is the one that I'm watching and is very important?
I'm looking at a couple things. First is cornerback, and people are not really thinking about quarterback. Cornerback. I'm sorry if I'm not meaning anything. We
You just had people like, yes,
like,
I knew it.
No, Sam,
Tank.
Relax, people, relax. No, it's gonna be interesting to see how the cornerback position plays out, because we see the respect that the group got around the league, but we know we drafted Martin, we drafted Forbes, so now you're sticking those guys into a pretty good group. This is actually more of a proving year for St. Juice than more people expect. And Kendall Fuller is being solidified across the league. And if you go back and look at this film, outside of really the Cleveland Browns game, and that everyone kind of played bad in that Cleveland Browns game, but if you look outside of that, he had a pretty darn good season. So you stick Forbes in there, you expect Forbes to push up there. Now, St. Juice, this is your time. You got to be healthy and be that disruptor, because they brought Forbes in to be a game changer. Forbes is there to make plays, and Martin can be very similar. So now that's the battle that people aren't really discussing, that I think people should look at. And this is not a knock on St. Juice, but this is a proven year. This is year 3 now. By this time, you should be locked in, loaded, ready to go. And if you're a little shaky at the beginning of the year, they go to Forbes quick, and that might be the end for St. Juice as the penciled in starter. So that's probably the one I'm looking for that a lot of people aren't looking for.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's gonna be interesting to see how they line all 3 of those guys up and where they put them. But kind of circling back, I would never ask this if it wasn't so slow right now. But nothing's started yet, so who cares? This entire Josh Harris, the Dan Snyder selling the team thing is getting everybody excited. Does this add more pressure to Sam Howell, do you think? Do you think that this makes it this season as first as a starter different than most players?
Maybe. I think out of everybody, Rivera's probably got the most pressure.
Yeah.
Out of everybody, if you want to just pick somebody on the football side that has most pressure, it's going to be Rivera. Because now you've had 4 years, you've rebuilt the roster. You no longer have the outside quorums. Now it's football. Now you got to produce, and you kind of hitched your wagon to let's see, Case Keenum. Let's see, Carson Wentz. Let's see, Fitzpatrick. Now you got to see, this is someone you drafted, someone that you said should have been in the system. Now you brought in Eric Bieniemy. This is on you now. So I think it's less pressure on Howell, and it's more pressure on Rivera, because we've all seen that this has been a pretty solid team missing that one key component, which is the hardest component to get. But the key component is quarterback, and quarterback play has been lacking. So you've had the cult hero and Taylor Heineke, and Alex Smith rose up like the Undertaker, and it goes on and on and on. But eventually now you got to have somebody there. And I think Howell has the tools, and I think he's going to be in a good offense for him to succeed. So I think the pressure is going to be off of him some. It's going to be more on the enemy, but I think Rivera is really the one that's going to be eye on the ball. Like, it's got to be him. So Howell, I think, has a freedom. Brissett is there, and Brissett's going to play well, but Howell's going to get a full chance to prove himself as a NFL starting quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. And to kind of piggyback off that, I was thinking about this earlier. Sam Howell obviously coming in. It's going to be the first week 1 will be his second start in the NFL. And then we have Eric Bieniemy coming in, who obviously comes from Kansas City. He's been the offensive coordinator there, but there's always been this questions about how much does he really do with the offense in Kansas City and how much is he involved. So my question is, who do you have a bigger question on about going into the season and how they're going to do this season? Sam Howell and how he's going to look on the field, or Eric Bieniemy calling plays to get Sam Howell comfortable on the field?
It might be a 50-50 there. And I think Howell playing that Cowboy game had no pressure because there was no expectations, and he did pretty well. There's things he could have done better, but he played pretty well. Eric has always been like, he's the guy. He should have got a head coaching job. Why can't he get a head coaching job? And if you watch the quarterback documentary, which was very well done, by the way, you wanted to see Eric being more present, like you saw like Kevin O'Connell with Kirk Cousins, and you didn't see much of that. So you're like, oh, what was he doing? But when you come and see practice, when you come to training camp, you will see the install. You will see the coaching from the enemy at all facets of the game. I'm talking about lining up in the huddle, breaking the huddle right. I saw him cuss somebody out because they didn't come out the huddle right. And these are things you do when you were 8 playing Little League football. But that's the attention to detail, which hasn't been there. So I think it's 50-50. Eric, can you put Sam in his best places to succeed? And Sam, do the things that you're supposed to do. Make the plays you're supposed to make. You're not Patrick Mahomes. No one is. Be Sam Howell. The Sam Howell, his junior year at Carolina, will be mighty fine in the NFL if we just play at that level. You don't have to try to do too much. And I think that's the balance that those two are going to have to figure out, because at the end of the day, we are still a defensive-based team. We are based off of our defense. We don't beat ourselves offensively.
Absolutely right. And now to wrap this up, I only have a couple more questions for you, Felix. But I know we kind of talked about Sam Howell already, but I'm going to have a different question for you with Sam Howell. let's fast forward in the future. Let's head 1 week. Let's say we're days away from Game 1 against Arizona. What do you predict the headlines are going to be regarding Sam Howell? Do you think it's going to be an elevated hope kind of based on the preseason, or do you think there's going to be trepidation?
It's going to be unknown. It's going to be a question mark. You know, like we have X for Twitter. It's going to be a question mark for Howell. And it's almost it's not like the Riddler. You just don't know. Like I said, that Cowboys game is more of an outlier just because we didn't have anything to play for. So we went for broke. Cowboys were kind of playing for something, but then their heart wasn't in it. Like there's levels of that. Arizona's is still going to try to compete. And they know without Kyler Murray, they're going to try to compete, and the defense is going to try to make plays. So we got to see him with clean slate. You know, everything's laid out in front of you. What are you going to do with it? And I think the question mark would be the headline. What is Sam Howell going to do? Presented with the moment, what is he going to do? Because that's going to be the craziest atmosphere since 2013. And I'm talking about 2013 Monday night with the Eagles. And remember what happened that game. But going into that game, that energy, that electricity, and all of that pressure, that's going to be even more for Sam Howell on week 1. It's just glad it's not a primetime Monday night game, but that's going to be the type of pressure and that's going to be the type of energy that's there. So Sam is just going to have to play within himself. But the question mark would be the headline for me. What are we going to get from Sam Howell in this?
Yeah, and last season, Logan Thomas was coming back from injury, wasn't his normal self, but he had 39 receptions for over 300 yards receiving. But so I have an over-under question for you. Cole Turner with 35 catches. Are you going over or under? 35 and a half. Sorry.
Over.
Okay.
Because he's actually going to be used as a receiving tight end this year, not a third tight end inline blocker, which he's not suited to do. So he's actually going to be a receiver. And I think there's going to be a lot of multiplicity in sets where you'll see sets where it's 3 tight ends, but Cole Turner gets flexed out at receiver on their number 1 corner. Or, you know, he's going to line up in the backfield as like an H-back. And next thing you know, Robinson's going one way, he's going another. Or Gibson flexes out to the flat. Like you're going to see a lot of stuff. But I'm going to say over on Cole Turner because he is still the best receiving tight end on the roster. And I think people understand he's the purest receiving tight end. And so I think he's going to start to get featured. Logan's going to play well, but Logan can't do the things that Cole Turner can do.
I think that's reality. There's no mincing words about that. Last question I have for you, it's another over-under, but pertaining to Quan Martin. 12 and a half games played, not starts, just games played.
I'm going to go over. I think he plays around 13, 14. I'm going to go in that range. He's going to have some nicks here and there because 17 games is 17 games. That's hard. In this league, that's just hard. But I think we have enough depth there where we will be okay. Where we'll be okay missing a game here and there. But I'm gonna go over on the 12 and a half.
I like that a lot. It's just because it's one of those positions, and the second round picks have not lived up to the draft pick, you could say, over the years, and one of the talking points for fans. So wanted to hear your thoughts on how much Quan Martin was going to be contributing and producing, and that would be music to my ears. Felix, I can't thank you enough, brother, coming on here, being able to talk to us before training camp. Everything is very hot right now, so I really appreciate you coming on, being able to talk with us, brother.
No problem. Appreciate it. See y'all out at Ashburn.
Yes, sir. We'll be there on the 8th, brother. We'll see you then. Yeah. Thank you, Felix. Have a good night, brother.
All right, later.
See you, man.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Felix Trammell. Yeah, I'm excited about August 8th, being able to go out there for Salute Day to Commanders in Ashburn. Yeah. They got bleachers out there. You can't park in the dirt parking lot anymore. They're going to have shuttles come in from a separate parking lot right down the street. So it's going to be really, really cool, man. I'm excited to go. How y'all doing?
Yeah, just doing, man. Just living.
I just got approved finally to take off the 8th, so.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
Yes, sir.
My man. I got to talk to you about that because, oh, boy, I am not happy with those dudes right now. But we'll talk about that a different day. There's no reason to
air it out on the air, dog.
No, so now let's go to our fan questions, and we have a lot of them for this episode. I appreciate everybody for contributing to this. It's been really awesome to see all the questions submitted. The first one is from the Colonel Reed. Taylor Heineke had 4 more starts, 24, than RG3 had in 20. During his time with Washington, do you think we will see him as a permanent starter in the NFL again, or is he now a perennial backup?
No, yeah, I mean, look, the story of Taylor Heineke's awesome. I don't think other fan bases are necessarily going to latch onto him the way we did, because the Tampa game really just kind of set the tempo with Taylor Heineke and made fans super excited. And I mean, Desmond Ritter's going in there as a starter. I don't necessarily see him losing that job unless he's injured. And I just think Taylor Heineke is what he is at this point. And he was really only started for us because he was forced to. I mean, let's be honest about it. Like, yeah, of course, everybody liked him. Everybody in the locker room loved him, but I don't see him being a full-time starter again.
Yeah, I'm right there with. I think his pay being $12 million kind of is indicative of that. A lot of people crap on Desmond Ridder. I've been a huge proponent of Desmond Ridder. I thought he was one of the best quarterbacks in that draft. I got in a lot of arguments over him. I really am happy for Taylor Heineke, but I do think that he is a perennial backup. He's the perfect backup for what you want. Somebody that's going to come in, it's going to fight for the chance to win that football game, and that's what Taylor Heineke brings for you. So I think that he is a perennial backup, and I think that that's probably one of the best jobs that you can have in the NFL, and Taylor Heineke did himself right by putting himself in that position, because just hold that clipboard, baby. Get ready for your spot if it ever does come.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys. He's probably just a perennial backup. He'll get a few spot starts here and there due to injury. Maybe the season's pretty much over with, and they're getting prepared. Maybe they don't want to see any more of the young guy. Like, the young guy is not, like, speaking of Desmond Ridder, obviously he's backing up Desmond Ridder. Maybe they're like, oh, we've seen enough of Desmond Ridder. Let's just give Heineke the last month of the season, the last 4 or 5 games of the season. Maybe he can play himself into like a starting role for the following year for a young rookie quarterback to hand the reins over to him. So, yeah, like you guys said, he's pretty much solidified the rest of his like career and the rest of his life as far as money and like job security goes. He's probably like a better Colt McCoy, like a better Chase Daniels, where, like I said, he can come in, give you some spot starts, give you a couple games here and there, maybe even win you a couple games here and there. But long term, we've seen what he is. Long term, he's average, and yeah, he's just a guy that is going to make a shitload of money holding a clipboard, chilling with his hat on the sideline.
Jeez, just all the vitriol for Taylor
No,
Heineke.
I'm not. It's not vitriol.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I wish I was a backup quarterback. That's the best job in the world.
Yeah. Also, Taylor Heineke. Let's be honest. He is the bro. He is a cool ass dude.
They're definitely gonna love him in the locker room.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's guaranteed himself, dude. Going from where he came from, that's such an awesome story, man. I'm so happy for him.
And at the end of the day, like, even if he wanted to be a full-time starter, he could easily just drop down to the XFL. He's already made $12 million in NFL, like another whatever endorsements. He's gonna have all the off the field money. If he actually wanted to play, like, be a starter and play, he could drop down to the XFL and be a perennial XFL MVP for God knows how long. So, yeah.
You're right about that. Now let's go on to our next question on Twitter from Scott Hartley in the UK. Oi! Thank you, Scott. He asks, Hall, the Hog ownership have said they will prioritize the community and fan experience as well as improve player welfare and locker facilities. What changes do you want to see and what will make the biggest difference on game day? Want to put this in there. He said the Hog ownership group because he's talking about the Harris ownership group, which obviously which is brilliant. Obviously, good job, Scott. So, what do you think, Hall?
What I want to see, I just want to see him. Well, it's known that he's like a big analytical guy and a big sports science guy, and it's been known that we have probably the worst as far as like sports science and analytics and just the overall like recovery and like preparation as far as it goes for like the players and their bodies and all that stuff. Like the cafe is probably like one like bottom tier, the food is bottom tier. So just the stuff that the players can come in and like the tangible stuff they can see like on a daily basis, like upgrading the food they eat every day, like the proteins and
he meant
maybe
more so because they're saying they're prioritizing the community and fan experience.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, fan experience. I know they got like a bigger like scoreboard type thing in the stadium. I know they've upgraded the sound system, so that's something that's going to be better in the stadium. I saw the new rails they just put in. So, yeah, I mean the seats, they've upgraded some of the seats with like the little like, what do you call it, like a
mesh.
That's what it calls, like the mesh type of seats and stuff like that. Maybe he's gonna drop the prices a little bit for like the beer and the food concessions and whatnot. So, um, and as far as the community goes, I mean, they just were out there for the one like that dude. It's like a former kicker, like D, whatever his name is like does like the 1-on-1 wide receiver versus cornerbacks for like high school athletes and whatnot. Puts them like a little showcase. I know Cam Curl and like a bunch of the guys were out there, and the Commanders are kind of hosting the event for
The
them out of the Dunbar.
Destroyers?
Nah, he's like a YouTube guy. So
Okay.
he goes around to different like states and does like one-on-one like DB versus wide receiver drills for like high school athletes. Kind of puts them on a platform, whatever, blah blah blah.
I got you.
But yeah, the Commanders kind of hosted that and did that thing out there at Dunbar. So just stuff like that, just like going to the high schools. Because I mean, obviously they want a younger fan base, so I think they're going to be in like the middle schools, the high schools, like the youth camps, the youth football teams around the area. They run the DMV, trying to get the brand out there and build the younger fan base up.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to be able to do it because the young fan base, like you and I, like growing up in our peer group, like finding somebody that's a DC fan through and through for all major sports is very hard to come by around here, and for good reason. When I was on with AWOD, for me personally, I said they need to find a way to make it quicker for the fan to be able to get something from concession. You know, I talked about you, Hall, about how when you went out in the second quarter and you didn't get back to what, like halftime or third, because you went out to go get one beer, right? And that sort of situation is what you want to take away to better the fan experience. Because when you think about going to get a soda, right, you don't want to have to think, because in your mind, when that thought comes up, you know that you're going to be standing in line for 30 minutes and you're weighing the options. Do I want to go buy that soda or do I want to sit here and watch the game? And I would rather just watch the game instead of buying that soda. So it'd be better for the owners and more money in their pocket if they're able to find a way to make things easier for. I know there's a lot of people. It's hard to do. There's problems that come up, but it seems like a consistent and constant problem for the concessions at FedEx. It just makes the whole experience very congested and I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
I mean,
To your point though, like when I went to go get that beer, there's been multiple times too. It seems like every time I get in line, I'm like inching up, and they're all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we're out of beer." It's like, okay, go to the next concession stand over, inching up, inching up. Oh, the cash register's broken. We only take card. It's like, okay, go to the next line, inching up, inching up. Oh, this one's down. We don't take card. We only take cash. It's like kind of like you said. It's always like there's always something, and then it like builds congestion outside the in like the outside of the stadium part, the outside corridor. And then you got people missing the game as well, which makes people like, oh, why am I standing in the line for this long? Blah blah blah. So, yeah, definitely like the small things like that, they could definitely like tweak and fix.
Yeah, when somebody when a fan thinks of the idea of going to get something, you don't want the immediate thought to be a negative. To think I have to stand in line. I don't know if they're gonna have it. I'm gonna waste my time here. Like you want to erase that immediate thought. In my opinion.
Well, the good thing is this year, I mean, they'll have plenty of Bud Light to sell. You know what I'm saying? They're never going to run out of that. But also, I mean, you guys kind of hit it on the head with the stadium stuff. I really, the only thing Josh Harris can do this year is not hide money from the NFL and not commit sexual assault. You can do that. I think we're pretty good.
That's a good start. It's a good start.
Yeah, it's a good start.
Oh my goodness.
Allegedly.
This next question is from a first questionnaire, Young Big Nose on Twitter. Jazzy Ariana
That's a
asked
sick-ass name, dude.
Thank you. Appreciate it. She asks, Reed, nothing too serious, but might be fun if it hasn't already been discussed. Under new ownership, who is somebody or someone, a player or coach, you'd like to see come back and finally be able to perform/work at their full potential?
Well, Young Big Nose, that is a very good question. A former coach, I mean, see, obviously, I've liked all of our coordinators, like our offensive guys. Obviously, Kevin O'Connell. It sucked that he was really only here 1 year in the offensive coordinator role. Obviously, Sean McVay, we all know what he did. But I'm gonna go with shit, man. That's pretty hard. You know what? Once our old defensive coordinator steps away,
man.
once Jack Del Rio leaves.
I thought you were gonna say Dan Snyder.
No, I was thinking about it. Yeah, which he could, because you never know what's going to go on at the Capitol building. He might leave soon. But I think, hey, bring back Greg Williams, man. That bounty was so fun when we were putting bounties on players' head. That made the defense so much more fun to watch. You know.
Yeah, and just to be like, if I'm being perfectly honest here, the one player I would love to see be here for great, phenomenal years is Trent Williams. I know that
Yeah,
he obviously
right.
is getting paid a lot of money, and he's probably happy where he's at under Kyle Shanahan. But I would just love to see Trent back here. I got his jersey the year that he sat out. The first time I've been waiting to get his jersey, I finally get it in the year he sat out. So I would love to be able to wear that jersey with him here in Washington. But I'm not going to cry about him being in San Fran. But that's a guy I would love to see come back.
Yeah.
I'll say
Kirk Cousins.
nah.
Come on.
I'll say RG3 just because everyone hates on him, so it'd be funny to see him come back and like be involved with the team
This
again.
is his city, Hall. This is his city.
Yeah.
I know that he deserves to be back here and deserves to come back.
This is his
The
city.
seat's waiting. The seat's waiting for him. The throne's over there waiting for him.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, we're all just watching the throne. He's on some Jay-Z and Kanye shit. He doesn't.
Right. Now, the next question from Young Big Nose. What happens next offseason, Hall, if the team has a disastrous finishing record? Who should get the blame?
Who should get the blame? Well, it starts at the top, so you got to go with Ron Rivera. He's the head coach. He's the guy that's in charge of everything. He's the big Puma making all the football decisions up until this point. So if you're going to put it on anybody, it'd probably go on him. But if we're being honest, if everything goes south on the field, it's probably going to be due to injuries and the offensive line being subpar again like it was last year, which I guess in retrospect, you can put that on Rivera too because he built the offensive line. So, yeah, I'd just say Ron Rivera.
I think everybody in that front office and obviously coach, if that were to happen, would be to blame. I think they would be accepting of that. They're not going to hide from it or make excuses. But I will say if that does happen, obviously they would move the situation around a little bit, but I would like to see Eric Bieniemy stay here if that did happen and then bring in Bill Belichick because it seems like things are dwindling down there in New England.
What?
So you never know.
What?
Yeah,
Bill Belichick.
If you read the tea leaves, things are.
Oh, I know he's on the hot seat, but why would you want him here?
His dad coached at Navy. He grew up.
Yeah, but like I don't care about ties to the Maryland area or DMV. I want to be an offensive, smart football coach. He is smart football coach.
I'm talking about.
He ain't offensive at all.
Keeping Eric Bieniemy here as the
saying
offensive
in like a
coordinator,
front
and then
office
bringing
type
in.
Oh, well, I don't want him as a head coach either. The game's passed him by. You see what he's doing at the offense?
So many people hate.
Oh,
Bill
you
Belichick.
see his record without an
It's
actual,
Bill
without a
Belichick.
legit quarterback. Have you seen his record? I'm just saying, we'd be right back where we are now.
Yeah. So obviously the coaching staff and the front office and stuff. I mean, if they fail miserably, I think it's pretty safe. But really, like if our team is failing miserably, other than injuries, really the only thing you could point to is quarterback play. And I don't think it's really fair to necessarily blame a young quarterback in this situation. But I mean, you would have to bring somebody else in for sure. I mean, you'd have to bring in somebody to compete, or Caleb Williams. So yeah, we'll see.
Now, this next question from Russell Reed. You probably talked about it already, but what can we expect from our offensive playmakers in an EB offense?
Ooh, that's very interesting because no matter what everybody says on Twitter and on Instagram and all these analysts, nobody necessarily knows exactly what EB is going to do, what he likes to do, because Andy Reid was calling most of the shots, but you'd like to think that he learned from him and that he knows how to utilize talent. I think that's pretty well established at this point. So I just think that you can expect wide receivers to be in good matchups, especially like our talent at wide receiver, them moving around a lot. You can expect a lot of motions. You can expect just a lot of two tight end sets. You can expect tight ends being utilized in numerous ways, running the ball, blocking, and leaking out for passes. And it's exciting. He's not afraid. If you read the tea leaves, as you said, Kyle, it does seem like we talked about, I think last week, he's not really afraid to use multiple tight ends, especially in the red zone, but like going and hitting the second, third string tight end down there because nobody's expecting it. So I think it's something to be excited about, man.
Yeah, and I do expect them to get a lot of yak this season, a lot of short intermediate routes, and then using those long routes as kind of that surprise bomb that's going to go on. It's like high percentage shots in basketball, right, with that up and close to line of scrimmage throws to Terry, Jahan, and others, and allowing them to make the play happen. And I think that's what's probably going to happen with the ZB offense. Maybe for the first time, we'll be able to see Terry McLaurin motion in on a linebacker or something like that. See some genius move like that to us seems like genius move, but in reality, it's normal It's typical. It's what every offensive coordinator does. So I'm really excited to be able to see that come into fruition. But first and foremost, I think these guys are going to be – everything that they do is going to be for a purpose. You're not just going to see willy-nilly just blah. Like everything is going to be done with a certain urgency and a reason for it to kind of move guys around to screw with them. It's not going to be like the past couple of seasons offensively where you kind of feel like the offense is behind the eight ball, that the defense knows what's coming. It's going to be the opposite if what we hope is correct.
Yeah, I think that, like Reed said, you don't really know because Eric Bieniemy's technically never called plays before, been like the head offensive coordinator, like really run his own offense before. But if you just look at what Kansas City's done over the past couple of years, you're going to see a lot of pre-snap motion, using the West Coast offense or a variation, whatever Eric Bieniemy wants to put his West Coast like spin offense on it. So you're going to see some 3-4 step drops. You're going to see the ball getting out quick. You're going to see a lot of timing, passing like concepts and passing routes. So yeah, just like you said, a lot of hopefully just you're going to see a lot of Sam Howell trying to basically like playing like the point guard, just getting the ball out quick, getting into the guy's hands to make the plays, get a lot of yak hopefully. And yeah, you're going to see hopefully
he's Magic Johnson out there.
Yeah, you're going to see Magic on the sidelines, bobbing his shoulder to some go-go.
I meant like as a point guard for Sam Howell. He's gonna be like
but he'll be bobbing
Johnson.
to some go-go while he's like distributing the rock too.
Dude, Magic had a great time.
Yeah, he did. He was living it up in DC, then flew right back to Italy like the next day, like living like a boss,
man.
I know. But yeah, you're gonna just see hopefully a progressive offense that is gonna rely on the run to open up the passing game down the field, open up those windows for Sam Howell. And like I said, you're going to see a lot of timing and like progression, like timing routes in the middle of the field and kind of like the intermediate stuff. So, yeah, hopefully it's going to be a quick, fast offense.
Yes, and now Hall, next question from Twitter, Tony Franchise. What position battles are you looking forward to during training camp?
Well, the number one, obviously, is going to be, now that they've officially released Andrew Norwell, it's going to be that left guard position between Sadiq Charles and Chris Paul. I think that's going to be the number one, like, camp battle, just because, for the most part, a lot of the other positions are pretty much locked up. Maybe outside corner, you got, like, St. Juice and Forge battling for that. But, again, you spend a first-round pick on a cornerback, you're probably going to start him. So, and I think they were working St. Juice on the inside. But mine pretty much just because it starts in the trenches and the offensive line is going to be the key. One of the keys this year, I'm looking at that left guard and maybe even the center too, even though we know Gates is going to start. But maybe what can Ricky Stromberg do and how can he challenge for that center position? But number one in my book is going to be Sadiq Charles versus Chris Paul versus maybe outside option if they're not getting the job done.
Yeah, you're not kidding about that. It's a fantastic one. Left guard is going to be huge now with Norwell released. Everyone was expecting it, but you could kind of see now why Norwell was so highly rated from other outlets, because they kind of saw this situation happening. So it's like, oh, they released their best rated offensive lineman, now they're screwed kind of thing. But for me, the position battle I'm looking forward to is the secondary. Just seeing how that shapes out. We kind of talked about it with Felix, with Benjamin St. Juice, Emmanuel Forbes, Kendall Fuller, even Danny Johnson is sitting there as well. They have some Percy Butler. And the secondary is very set up for success. And so I'm really intrigued to see where Quan Martin fits, to see where Emmanuel Forbes fits, and then what gets moved around, who gets the starting spot on the outside at corner. So I'm going to keep my eyes directly on those cornerbacks for a lot of that defensive back series, because I want to see who is really pummeling and doing well.
Yeah, man. I mean, you guys took two of the ones that I think are probably the most common, because that's what you guys do.
I was gonna go last.
No, I'm just kidding. No, because I mean those are really like the two main ones that are going on right now. Right. They're the most important. But I'm interested to see how we utilize the tight ends, how that kind of rotation works out, how we see how Cole Turner looks. If he can, maybe Cole Turner breaks out, he ends up being the number one tight end. If not, who's going to be second string tight end? Who's going to be third string? Are you going to have guys in there primarily just as blockers, or what are you going to do? So I'm interested to see tight end. It's a good young tight end room, and they got a lot of talent, and let's hope EB can get the best out of them.
Absolutely. Now, next question from Twitter. Our guy Do Better. Thank you, sir. His question read, how many games will it take to save Rivera's job?
Rivera's got to cement his job. He's got to make the playoffs and possibly win a. Yeah, I guess he's got to win a
Yeah.
playoff game, man. Yeah, I mean
That's what
a
I'm.
really,
I don't care about the
yeah.
record during the regular season. I'm circling that playoff win. You give me a playoff win, we're good.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm
Yeah. Just because I feel like 9 wins will probably get you like the 7th seed at the minimum. So I'll put it at 9 just to get that 7th seed wild card. Obviously, you want to strive for greater things, but I think 9 games and like you said, you got to win. I didn't see the thing is though, like I keep saying you got to win a playoff game, but like if they lose a shootout like 35-38 and like a last minute field goal, are you really going to fire Rivera like coming off of a game like that? Some could say yes because he fired Doc Rivers and they made the playoffs and they lost in 7 games. So yeah, I guess you're right. You gotta get the playoffs, probably 9 wins, and you got to win the playoff game.
I think those are high expectations and ones that we should have of our football team.
Also,
Sure.
though, I mean, what if they win the division, but it's with like a 9-8 record or something like that? Maybe who knows, some crazy happens. They end up winning the division, getting another NFC East title. I mean, maybe that would do it too.
Well, like look at the Giants, right? The Giants did the same thing. They kind of limped into the playoffs and then won a playoff game, and everyone's kind of talking about them being like, "Oh, this team," like that sort of thing. They're building in that breath. Now, the next question in our off Twitter is from 800 Blue. Take on Green. With new ownership taking over Hall and the good vibes they bring, how do we see the trickle-down effect of that energy onto the field? Can that translate into wins?
I'll say it can, just because. I mean, you look at the comments from Terry McLaurin and Jonathan Allen over the weekend where they were getting interviewed and asked about it, and like paraphrasing, they're pretty much like they can just have a like breathe a sigh of relief. They don't got to keep getting asked the questions about like the ownership and all the off the field stuff, and you can literally just come to work and just focus on my job, football, what I got to do on the field, and the opponent I'm going against next week. So I definitely think just by that mindset of just focusing 100% on football and not distracted by all the other outside stuff can obviously translate to wins, because you feel more comfortable at work. You feel like a sense of, like I said, like a sigh of relief more. It's just like feels better to come to work instead of just like kind of like the proverbial dark cloud always around the team and over the team. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. And then I do think that the fans coming back and supporting the team and hopefully getting into the stadium more and going to more games will have a also like effect, this like trickle down effect as well from the ownership, because it'll be a more positive atmosphere, a more positive vibe. And yeah, the players can definitely feed off the energy from the fans. So I do think it'll be a slight trickle down effect. How much we'll see, but I do think it can translate to wins.
I don't think the energy has that much effect into the translation into wins. I think that the energy is great. That is an initial. You always have that honeymoon phase, but when the rubber meets the road, you have to build trust between you and the players, organization, coaches, saying that we have your best thoughts in mind. And that has to be an action. That can't just be said. Well, obviously, we learned that from Snyder. He could say that all day, but we knew that that wasn't really the case. It took forever to actually, never did, give them the rehabilitation center and everything they needed training wise. So there's a lot that goes into it. So I'm not going to say that the energy alone is going to carry that onto the field, and it shouldn't. The hard work, the training is going to actually translate into wins. But the fact is, having that trust to have the player say, I want to give you my all because I trust that you're going to have my best interest in mind when it's all said and done. So I'm going to work for that. And that's going to translate into wins. So in a weird kind of way, yes, it can translate into wins. But at the end of the day, truly, it doesn't matter. Action requires.
Yeah, I mean, it should motivate guys. I think, like you said, just having that black cloud over you all the time, and it's been like that since we can remember. I mean, we've always been made fun of. We've always been such
Why's
a
it got to be
bad,
black, bro?
but because rain, I'm pretty sure that's
It's
what it means.
dark
It's
blue.
raining on your parade.
It's dark blue.
Come on, Kyle. No, it's not.
Learn your nebulouses, bro.
Dude, I know my nebulas. Dude, all I do is blow strange clouds. Come on, dog. Keep up. But yeah, I mean, it's gotta have people fired up. The players got to be fired up. But just seeing how excited the fan base is has to get you ready to get up and go. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
they should be able to use this as motivation. Yeah.
Now, last question from Twitter. Andy Burrows in the UK. Oi! Thank you, Andy.
Oi.
How important is it we don't expect too much too soon from our new ownership group? And although we may not see it straight away, just know they're working their ass off to make us great again.
Yeah, I mean, dude, this is a process. This isn't something that just happens overnight. I mean, there's a lot of things that were going wrong with this franchise, and it's going to take a while. Luckily, I do think that we're in a position where we should have a pretty decent team where we can see some results early. But this is going to be an ongoing thing. It takes so long to change the way that you're viewed. It takes so long to change and build a winner, a continuous winner. So I think it'll take a while, and people, I mean, don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen immediately after 1-2 years. Just wait a little bit. Wait multiple years.
Yeah, you're absolutely
Some
right.
say you should trust the process.
Yeah, that's true.
And one thing I'll say, I think that fans by themselves should give a very long leash to Harris and company for the simple fact of putting up $6 billion to take this from the prying, skinny hands of Snyder. Getting away from that should do enough. Andy, but this next question from the Discord chat server from our boy Chris Comerton. It's along the same lines, Hall. With Harris owning multiple franchises throughout the sports world, do you think Harris will have the time to focus on this team? I've seen a couple 76ers fans saying things like, expect the cameras to pan up to an empty owner's box during games. Personally, I think he will focus more because he grew up a fan from the area. I don't believe a good owner needs to be there. Just make sure the team has everything they need to succeed.
Yeah, well, as far as the 76ers go, he's been owning that team for a little bit now, and I feel like he was hands-on when he first got the team. He came in, fired the general manager right away. I think he made a trade for Jimmy Butler, gave him a contract, and all this other stuff. So he was there along in the beginning to like kind of hands-on with Philadelphia, and then he got them on track and handed it over to the people that know basketball and make the basketball decisions and know how to build a team. And look at them now. They had an MVP in Joel Embiid, and they're consistently a 50-plus win team, which is good in the NBA. Look at the New Jersey Devils, and you could say the same thing. They were one of the bottom teams in the Eastern Conference. He came in, was hands-on with them, flipped them around, and he gave the control to the people that know hockey, know how to build a winner in hockey, and now they're a playoff team as well in the NHL. So, and just going back to what he said in his press conference, obviously talk is cheap. You got to put action into it. But like you said, he's from the area. One of his quotes was, I want to be remembered for what I do in Washington, what I do here. So I do think that his mom is here. So I do think that he'll be here. He might not be here like every single day. He might not like move here and live in the DMV, but he's definitely going to be probably at the majority of the home games. I think he's going to be really in the building a lot for the first couple of months of like training camp and maybe the season. So I don't think that you're going to see an empty box when they pan up to the owner's suite in the FedEx. But I do think that it's not going to be like an everyday hands-on thing. But like Reed said, you don't need to be hands-on every single day. You just have to have the right people in place and trust them to do their jobs on a day-to-day basis.
One thing I will say, the reason why Harris wasn't in the owner's box for 76ers games because nobody likes Philadelphia. And the only reason he did that was just to be able to gain some more capital. Yeah. The only reason that he owned the 76ers was to gain the revenue in order to purchase the Commanders. I think he is moving here. I think this is going to be his baby, and I hope that it is, because the NFL is a totally different animal than the NBA. We could talk about all day about that lottery process and how they go about getting their players and everything. Totally different animal here in the NFL. A lot more players, a lot more hands involved, and a lot more things that can go wrong. I hope that Josh Harris focuses solely, but I don't expect him to. But I do think that he has the right thoughts in mind in gaining this team. And when I listened to that press conference, it didn't seem like a guy that just is going to have like a notch on the belt, like Vince Vaughn from Wedding Crashers. I don't wear a belt, beltless. That's why I kind of think with Josh Harris is it's not really something like that. And obviously him and Magic Johnson said that. I think this is legit, and I do hope that this will be his focus because this is a gold mine. It's been a waiting gold mine, and Josh Harris and company, they know that.
Yeah, I mean, hey, last time we had a fan by the team, it worked out really well, so I'm just kidding. Dude, hey, doesn't that suck, though, kind of for Snyder? Like, you grew up a fan of a team, and, like, now you're just completely blackballed from him because you drove him into the ground and ruined him, and you were the worst owner in sports history, probably.
I think he still watch the team on Sundays and cheer from his yacht.
Dude, do you know how much that would hurt?
Of course he's not going to.
I mean, he did make billions of dollars, so I'm sure he doesn't really care.
That does cure a lot.
And I do question really how much he loved his football team at times with what happened.
I will say this. Someone made a good point.
To do, but I'm just saying.
No. Someone made a good point. I forget who it was, but they were like, maybe it was Danny or Grant. I don't know. I can't remember. But they were like, okay, I understand you're 34 years old, 35, whatever it might be. You get handed an NFL team. You're like, huh, I'm the man. Like, no one can touch me.
Yeah.
So, like, you try to buy players and, like, oh, this is like NFL, like Madden. I play Madden all the time. Like, I can just go buy Deion Sanders. I can buy Bruce Smith.
I can go sign out.
Okay, I get that. Like, you
Yeah.
make mistakes in the beginning, but, like, at some point, it's kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
I've realized I haven't done it this way. Maybe I should, like, do it a different way. And he just kept doing it his way. So, like, they're like, did he really like the team or did he just, like the money
I'm
that
telling
the
you,
team made
dude,
for
the
him?
perfect explanation for Snyder is Michael Scott from The Office. He needed his number 2 in command. For the long time, he was depending on Dwight and others. And up until recently, it was like somebody different. But I think I would say Jason Wright is Jim. But, you know, a lot of people have different views of Jason. I don't need to get into that because I think Jason's a great guy. Now, this next question from Tim Towner in the Discord. Thank you, Tim. Preseason is only 3 games away now, Reed. But we have an offense with an 3 games nowadays. Sorry, preseason is only 3 games nowadays. But we have an offense with an inexperienced QB and a new OC who's trying to install a brand new scheme. Plus a defense with several rookies and new players. How would you handle playing time in those games? We also have the joint practice with Baltimore, and injuries are always a concern. But can we afford to wait for the regular season to get game time experience? This is a phenomenal question.
That is a very good question, and I'm very
Because
curious.
he's a genius.
Yeah, that's true. No, yeah. I'm also super curious to see what they do with Sam Howell. Like how often are they going to play him? How long are they going to play him in the preseason? How many games are they going to play him in the preseason? Like, I don't know, man. That's a very tough question. I don't think I've really seen a situation like this during when the preseason switched to 3 games where you can really be like, all right, well, this is how the standard way, this is how it's going to go, this is how it should go. When you have a young quarterback, this is how you play him. Dude, you guys will probably be better at answering this question for me. I know that's a cop out, but that's what I do. I don't care. Go ahead, because I don't know. I'm at a loss, dog.
Yeah, you're absolutely right because this is the
At least I admit when I don't know things, Kyle.
This is a really intriguing question, Tim, because I think this is where it comes into the OTAs and how Logan had talked to us and said they're running 90% pass plays. And that kind of shows you the plan of it all because you don't have to force all that game time in the preseason and possibly injuries because you did a lot of the passing install in OTAs. You're going in with an upper hand in that sense of the mental game. And now it's just putting it together. I would say I'd be willing to bet Sam Howell and the starters are probably an accumulation. I would say probably about a game worth out of those 3 games that they're going to play. Most likely 2 quarters in one game and 1 quarter each in the opposite. But that's what I expect. And I wouldn't change anything else because the injury concern is obviously a huge one. Ryan Robinson got shot right before training camp last season. All right, anything could possibly happen to this football team, and so that's what I would like to go with. Try to cautious as possible in preseason, but when you have everything under control in a kind of joint practice setting, let him off the loose. You know.
Yeah, I think that he's going to get a lot of reps in practice. Obviously, they're going to go 7-on-7, 11-on-11s, and whatnot. He'll get the reps there against our defense. And then come preseason, I do think that like the first game, they probably play at minimum a half of a quarter, like half of the first quarter. And depending on how the offense is looking, or maybe they're not in sync, maybe they're getting a bunch of penalties, maybe Ron will keep them out there a little bit more to try to, I guess, end on a good note, or if you want to call it like that. So it might be between half to like maybe a full quarter. Second game, I do think it'll probably be the same, maybe a half of a quarter, depending on how the offense comes out and looks. If they look good, they look crisp, okay, get them off the field. Save them up for the practice coming up with the Ravens, which is obviously going to be physical, and you're going against another team. So I think that'll be where you see the most of the reps, where you come with the first team and Sam Howell. Like you said, I think they'll play maybe up till halftime, maybe a quarter out of, or maybe like a rep or 2 out of halftime, just to get that that after halftime type of feeling into a game situation. So I do think that it'll be close to a game's worth of like 3.5, 4 quarters of like football combined in those 3 games. But I wouldn't expect outside of that Ravens game for the offense to get really to be put in harm's way as far as like injuries and whatnot.
Yeah, like you said, maybe they're not in sync. Maybe they're just a couple of Backstreet Boys. You know what I'm saying? We want Justin Timberlake's out there.
And one thing I would say, Tim, this would be a really good time to look back at what Andy Reid and the Chiefs did going into Pat Mahomes' second year. just to see what they did in that preseason to kind of gauge, and I think that would have heavy influence into what they do. Now this next question from Big Tony Shivers in the Discord. Hall, which of these former players, healthy and in their prime, do you think would help the team more this season? Jordan Reed or London Fletcher?
Ooh.
In their prime.
In their prime. That's a good one. It's an offensive league. Obviously, Eric Bieniemy coming from Kansas City where they featured Travis Kelce. Not saying Jordan Reed was Travis Kelce, but similar kind of like type of athletic tight end, eat space in the middle of the field, is a mismatch for corners and linebackers and safeties. It's an offensive league now. Tight end is a young quarterback's best friend. So as much as I love London, he should be in the Hall of Fame. And in his prime, he was a dog. Jordan Reed was a pit bull off the leash in his prime.
The hard thing for London Fletcher, his prime was like 15 years in the NFL.
Yeah, that's true.
But for me, I'll say London, and the reason why I'm saying London, he used to go in the ice bath before and after every game to stay healthy. He's the Iron Man. Ooh. That would be crucial for this football team to have that kind of leadership and to install that in the younger guys to say, if you want to take care of your body, you want to withstand this football league, this is what you have to do to be able to do it and be able to go on these like car collisions every Sunday. This is how you're going to have to prepare yourself, kind of like we saw in that quarterback documentary with Kirk Cousins. I think London would be crucial to this football team and just in the leadership aspect, and I think it would add that extra just on the defense to the point where the offense's job would be very easy.
Yeah, that one's tough because I think the defense is obviously further along than the offense.
I didn't want to keep agreeing with you, Hall.
I know, I'm just joking.
Yeah, so the defense is probably further along than the offense, and London.
But just thinking about a prime Jordan Reed.
Yeah, no, I wasn't
Eric
talking.
Bieniemy,
Yeah, no,
I
wasn't
was saying
talking.
though. You know what I'm saying though?
Yeah.
Who?
Are you done? No, I mean obviously London Fletcher's a borderline Hall of Famer.
I'm just saying Jordan Reed though.
Dude, shut up, Kyle. Jesus Christ. You just go. You're not Doc Walker. You can't just go whenever you want.
I'm glad I made that funny.
That was fun. That was good. Yeah, so you want to go with London Fletcher, but I think Jordan Reed and prime Jordan Reed, man, having that tight end there, he was so good.
You could literally bring over that offense, no issue at all from Kansas City. Would just be plug and play at that point with Jordan Reed, to your point. Last question from Mr. Irrelevant, Mr. Andy Lockhart from the UK in the Discord. Thank you, boy.
He's a great guy.
Question for the pod, Reed. Do you think Gibson gets re-signed? If so, how much money would his extension be?
Nah.
Okay. I think that it depends on the dollar amount, but I think that if you're looking at about $5 to $6 mil per, maybe a little bit south of that, then that could be a really good incentive for the football team to keep you. Because I think Antonio Gibson does have a lot of mileage on him because obviously he wasn't heavily utilized as a running back in college. So he does have a lot of years on him. So in talking about future speak, not like a normal NFL running back who went through 4 years of college in the SEC as a running back, right? It's different. So for this, I do think that Antonio Gibson has that mileage, but you want to keep that cap low as possible because of the running back position. So I think that if you're looking about $4 to $5 mil, I think that the team would be willing to do that just to solidify that running back room. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not the running back usage that EB's trying to envision for this football team years down the line.
I will say no, and it's because just look at the state of the running backs in the NFL right now. No one's getting that second contract, whether you're a big name guy or you're a middle tier guy or just a fringe practice squad, third string type of guy. Yeah. They're not getting the contracts that they actually want and probably deserve. And two, if you just look at Josh Harris's track record, he's heavy into analytics. And if you look at the analytics, it says don't pay a running back on their second contract. So they're probably not going to offer him a second contract. But, I mean, look, AG's my guy. I would love to have him around. I think he's hopefully finally due for that breakout year. But with that being said, yeah.
Dude,
the analytics and all that and all the contract stuff right now with running backs, I don't see it happening, unfortunately.
It is crazy to me that Bijan Robinson is getting
it's the highest paid,
14 mil per. Mm-hmm. And in Saquon, who literally is the entire reason that they are even irrelevant at the current moment, is fighting to be able even to get, what is he making, like $3 million this year or something like that? I know it's a lot to us, but it's just crazy to
Nah,
think
he's
about
making
it.
$10 million. The franchise is $10 million.
The franchise, but you know what I mean. Like his normal salary would be much lower than that. But and then Anthony Richardson getting $34 million in cold hard cash immediately. It's just kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's crazy when a guy that just got drafted is going to take his first snaps in the NFL. Week 1 is the highest paid running back in the league going into this year. Like, what? So,
All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and contributing to this show, guys. Can't thank you enough. Tim Towner, Tony Shivers, everyone on Twitter, Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Andy Lockhart. We love you guys. Appreciate you so much. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday. I'm Kyle.
August 8th, I will be there.
Yeah, and Magic Johnson's been through a lot, but the one thing that stands out, don't worry, I'm not going to speak.
I'm about to hit it. I'm about to hit the button.
Dump.
I'm not saying
hit the dump button ASAP.
Great guy. Yeah, great guy.
So stupid. All right, everybody. It's going to wrap us up for this episode. See you guys on Thursday. Have a safe week. We love you. Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.